Good morning, Christine.
Good morning, Autumn. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so happy to talk to you today.
Oh, me too. I
Yeah,
think we've got some interesting things to talk about today.
we definitely do. And I think it's a great timing with like the mortgage rates you said are bouncing around, but I think it's finally gonna ease up some pressure to make it possible for people to jump into this market that have been maybe waiting on the sidelines.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. So, Autumn is a realtor. I am a mortgage broker, but that's not how we met.
No.
We actually met in our alter egos. Me as Aurelia Star Dancer, a centaur, and president of Weird Portland United.
hmm And me as the instigator of Circus Pandemonium, my band and performance troupe. And um, I'm so I'm so thrilled to be part of the weird community, and um, I'm super impressed with the event that you just put together for Portland Weird United. It was so fun, and so many amazing people came out, and um, those are our people. Those are the kind of people that we want to work with. If you're weird, a little different, hey, I understand. And um, yeah, there's a lot that can be said for us sticking together and you know working together, making our differences something that's benefit and beautiful for everybody.
Well, with us both coming from that world, it just made sense to come and talk about this because I believe that Portland is built on these folks that are creatives, they're small businesses, they're gig workers and things like that. And
Mhm.
um, we know how difficult it is, both of us also being in the real estate world. We know how difficult it is for folks to buy a home. It almost seems like an impossibility to so many of our people here in Portland. And so you had a fantastic idea that we needed to talk about communal purchasing. And
Yes.
you actually have a little experience with that.
I do. I'm a gig worker, and I have irregular part-time incomes that come from many sources. And I went through a bunch of mortgage brokers trying to get qualified for a mortgage, and they were like, your income is confusing and I can't do this. And I'm like, hey, I'm making money. Come on. And so what we ended up doing was buying a home with one of our great friends. So there's three of us that own this property, my husband, me, and my friend. And I think that's something that, and because we did that, we were able to afford something that has space for all of us. He's got his own space. I've got my own space for my projects. I'm so thrilled to have a studio. Um,
And I'm so jealous that you have a studio.
yeah, it's great. And it does, like I've seen a bunch of people, married couples even having a hard time qualifying. Both of them have full-time jobs, can still not really get into one of these homes in our price ranges of 400 to $600,000 is what you're looking at for a home in Portland.
Yeah.
And sometimes that does take three or more incomes to get into. And I want to encourage all of our weird community to have these conversations with each other, like, oh, we were going to go rent a place together, but maybe we should look at actually buying that place together.
And so many of them are doing communal living anyway
Yeah.
because they can't afford to even rent by themselves. And so they're already living in community settings with other roommates and all of that, but they're putting all of their money towards their landlord's mortgage. And they don't get the freedoms that they would get with home ownership. Whereas if they were able to pull together their resources and actually purchase a home, they're going to have so many benefits from that because they're going to be able to renting like that. I've seen, I mean, I have adult children. I've seen them live in houses that are not so great, in not so great neighborhoods because that's what, they could afford, but coming together and they can buy a house where they can have more space, a more desirable neighborhood, and they can make it their own. They can decorate it. They can and have this investment. They can
Plus
take
the security to know that you are not gonna get pushed out. I
right.
have I have a good friend that is, uh, getting evicted because her landlord sold, and, she's been there for over 20 years,
Oh my gosh.
and she doesn't know what she's gonna do, and, I'm like, "Man, you could almost be owning that place by now."
Oh, it's wild. And inevitably, when people are renting, I mean, every year, bump, bump, the rents go up, 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 and then they get priced out and they can't stay there. So they're hopping around to from place to place to place or struggling so hard to be able to hang on by a thread,
Mhm.
whereas if they bought a house together, well, then they have that consistency of knowing, that this is their mortgage payment. And they have more people, inevitably people fall on hard times. But if you have that little bit of support there that you can kind of help cover each other until the other one is able to get back where they're supposed to be. Um, it's just a security that you just can't get in any other way.
Mhm. Yeah, the the benefits are huge. And I think everyone knows the benefits of home ownership. I don't think we need to ring that too much, but it's obvious. I just think that the path to that is not. And so I think that's where our skills can really, being creatives like we are able to think outside the box and help you come up with those creative solutions to make that path possible.
Well, I know that people kind of get nervous about the idea of like buying a home with a non-spouse or a non-partner. But tell me what you did in your experience to kind of give yourselves a little bit of comfort in that and, make sure that we're all on the same page if something were to happen.
Oh,
What
right.
did you do?
We did actually consult with an attorney while we were in escrow under contract before we sealed the deal. And the attorney gave us all like a 30 question um survey to fill out of how do you feel about this? How do you, you know, and he did a good job of um helping us come up with basically a prenuptial arrangement where we understand our rights and responsibilities and our limitations, and we also have, like, if we need an exit plan that's um, kind of laid out if we need to um, move on. So there's and if we do move on, like, we're all going to be benefited by of making the purchase anyways because um, we have affordable housing right now, and if we ever sell, we're all going to benefit from that down the road.
Right, because you built equity in and, you can set, if you decided to go your separate ways, then if you decided to sell it, then you divide up that equity. Or if the other people wanted to stay in the home, there's the possibility of refinancing
Mhm.
and getting the other person off of the deed. And I mean, it's
Yeah, I
not
mean, like,
much different
divorce happens and people do that in the
all the
normal world
time,
anyways, so
all the time,
yeah.
very frequently.
And sometimes friends can be better roommates than a spouse that
Yeah.
might be creating on you. Um,
Yeah, there's just so many benefits to it. And you know, there's no doubt that buying is better than renting. Um, and to be able to have those conversations and to be able to open up that pathway for folks. I want to see people living in their own homes and having their space that they can call their own, and not having those fears of rents going up or evictions or you know all of that stuff. I mean, and the communal purchasing is one of the best ways to do that, especially with how many people in this community can't afford to buy by themselves.
right. And the benefit of communal purchasing, you could buy something that has more space. In my situation, we bought a 2-acre spot. It's outside of town. I mean, I've got to commute, but it's worth it because, like I said, I've got an art studio. We all
Well, you
have
have a
space,
bus.
and you're gonna have to come up and visit me sometime soon.
Oh, I definitely will. Yeah.
But the Portland has so many beautiful properties, especially if you get outside of the actual city limits. I know so many people that like have the dream of living in an intentional community, of just not having the means to make that possible. But there's so many properties around here that would be great for that. There's places with big shops and barns attached to them, and um, they've made it easier to get permits to build accessory dwelling units.
Yes.
And so you can buy a place and put in a tiny home in the backyard, or whatever, there's permitting and things. There's definitely legal steps to take, but all of that is so much more possible now, than it was even just a few years ago because of the zoning changes that they've made to encourage people to build in. And I think that the city of Portland, encourages this type of thing where they would like to see people putting a tiny house in their backyard instead of sprawling out into our forests. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. And then there are so many homes that have, it's shocking because where I come from, this is not the norm, but there are so many homes that have so many bedrooms and so many living spaces and basements and all of that. So you have a lot of options in finding, those homes here that are made for, multiple living spaces, which is really remarkable. Again, where I'm originally from Texas, and we don't have built-in basements that are, all fully, we don't have basements at all. So,
Mm,
that's a whole new thing to me here, being here for the last 7 years, and
yeah,
multiple,
especially
multiple
older
bedrooms.
homes.
Hmm.
Some of these older homes have amazing studio spaces, like where there's a dedicated art space
Oh,
already, and um, there's just so many beautiful properties. That's one thing I love about being a realtor is getting to explore them.
yeah, I do open houses, or I do estate sales quite a bit, and I really love going and looking at all of the different layouts and everything. And I, there's a lot of creativity in the homes that are built here too. So it really affords for that.
Yeah. Yeah, so let's talk about like what it would take to have some of those hard conversations with your friends or your circle.
Well, yeah. So, everybody just really knowing so first of all, it's very difficult to talk about finances with other people.
Mhm.
People shy away from that. They don't like talking about, their financial situation, how much they make, how much they owe. But those are very important conversations when you are going to sit down and talk to some folks about communal living. You'll need to have those conversations, and you'll want to know that information about the other person. So knowing that you want to know, are they in a good, stable situation where they
Mhm.
can contribute? should make that conversation easier for you to also be willing to give that information. It's not embarrassing. We all have different things in our life that, things that are hard, things that are challenging. Have those conversations and say, here's where I am, here's where you are. If you've got to bring in 3 or 4 people, then your situation doesn't seem so daunting. So
Right.
have those conversations. Agree on a budget. That budget is, how much can you afford for your mortgage, your homeowner's insurance and taxes, all of those things are included in all of that. So have a budget conversation ahead of time. Actually, get pre-qualified ahead of time, because when you get your pre-approval, then it's not guesswork of
Hmm.
what you can afford. So
Yeah, and part of
planning,
having that hard conversation is definitely talking with a mortgage broker like you that can review those numbers with everybody involved and be like, "Oh, well, you have your credit card's almost maxed out, which is going to really affect your debt to income ratio. And if you can pay that down, then we can actually get you working on this. If and sometimes that might take a few months. So if you have those conversations with your mortgage broker earlier, then you're not like, "Oh, we found the house and oh shoot, we have these obstacles to hit up." If you have those conversations and, hit up somebody like Christine that can go over your numbers and give you guideposts and some targets to hit, because everybody can make improvements to their financial situation. And letting your credit card ride with your minimum payments is, I know a lot of people do it, but it can really make it a challenge to buy a house. And sometimes they're like, well, you have to pay this off before you can secure that mortgage.
right.
And
And there's different things that can come up, and I can help,
Mhm.
once you do an application and we take a look at everything, if it's a situation where you've got to make a few adjustments, then I can give you the homework and say, okay, if you do XYZ, then we're going to be in a better position and you're going to be able to afford more. And, so having that, this is a very important part of this, is actually sitting down. Once you have your group of people, do the application so you know where you are and you can start planning from that. For
Mhm.
some
You're
people,
you're gonna give people a better idea of their budget than they might have anyways.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So that's one of the first things. Ownership structure, how are you going to hold the house? In most cases, it's going to be with rights of survivorship, which is probably how you have yours with your group. Is that how you have yours?
Mhm.
Your title held. So, if somebody were to pass away, the rights of survivorship stay with the survivors. Um, and just like Autumn said, having a legal agreement, sitting down with an attorney and having that legal agreement of asking those questions and deciding, the ifs, whats, and whens of if something were to happen. Make sure you're all in legal agreement, not just handshake agreements, because if something does go wrong, you want to make sure that you're protected and that all of the people are protected.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, in the real estate world, they want everything in writing. And
yeah,
I think that's a good way to go. I mean, at least like, if there's a disagreement, you can always refer to, "Hey, we did sit down and all sign this and agree to it." And um we're all going to be held to that.
yeah, doing that ahead of time rather than in the middle of a dispute. So I'm gonna tell you that'll never work. Yeah, having that plan ahead of time where you all understand the expectations is the only way to do that. And then, you know, be living with other people. It doesn't matter if it's, like we said before, sometimes living with friends can be easier than living with spouses, but living with other people, there's always that opportunity for a little bit of rub here and there. So making sure that you have strong conflict resolutions, that if we are having some issues, you know, how are we going to handle those? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about conflict resolution. Let's talk about how we're going to, you know, come at each other in a most respectful way, because you do own a home together, so you want to make sure that things are as amicable as they can be. Um,
Mhm.
what are your long-term goals? Are they going to be to buy a house right now together, that you can easily afford, and then later on, um, sell the home and move to a bigger home? Or, later on, are you planning on maybe selling or renting this home and moving out individually? So making sure that you know your long-term goals. Because if somebody is, you don't want to have this conversation with somebody who plans in the next 2 years to move to Utah. You this is somebody who you want to have these conversations with people who are dedicated to being there, for the full term. So, um, making sure you know those things is really important. Um, you know, and then something that Autumn can help with is like the market conditions, like kind of what is the inventory out there right now, and what does that look like?
Mhm.
Great about giving them an idea of what fits best for their situation.
Right. And there's like every part of town has its own flavor, its own niche, and depending on the part of type of property you're looking for, you might need to step out of town just a little bit to get something bigger. But there's a lot of benefits to that. Less traffic, quieter lifestyle. Or you might want to be closer to town where there's closer to your work and things that are going on. And the closer you are to downtown, the higher the prices tend to be.
Yes.
So then again, having a team where you're not just burdering, holding
Mhm.
that whole burden on your shoulders alone, um, can really be beneficial because if you want to live downtown, it's probably going to take a team of you.
Yeah. And then the emotional factors.
Yeah.
Anytime you're dealing with money, there is an added layer of complexity with friendships. Uh,
Hmm.
that's I mean, that's a scary thing no matter what, but just being prepared to have those conversations and being mindful of each other, making sure that y'all are dividing up not only your mortgages, but your groceries, your cleaning supplies, the duties of the house, to just keep things going smoother, and making sure you have plans for those ahead of time is going to make that very successful.
Who's going to do their dishes once they're piled up?
Right.
Yeah.
How do you do that in your house?
Oh, well, that's usually my son's job.
Well,
Even if,
if I cook, I'm not cleaning the kitchen. That's
uh
here. So,
yeah, that's why it's usually my son's job.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many benefits. There's definitely conversations to be had. Um, but it is a way forward. It is a way to make a difference, and to just have a little bit of peace, I really think. Because when you do own it, don't get me wrong, it means you have to take care of repairs and all of that. Hopefully one of you is very handy.
Yeah,
But
well, the place we bought needs a lot of repairs. I'll be honest about that. And I look around and feel a little overwhelmed with what it is, but I'm also assured by that I can be patient and like, oh, this doesn't all have to happen right away.
right.
Um, we can prioritize certain parts of the project. There's parts of our house that need to be painted very badly. Um, and I'll get to it, but there's um there's a lot to be said for being able to do that. Like I could pick the colors. I love this blue accent wall that I've got everywhere. You know, and
My house is it's called Outrageous Green, I believe.
oh yeah, you
Uh,
should
it
take a picture of it. It's
it
beautiful.
it looks it's a very light green, almost yellow. It's bright. It's very bright. And we got to choose that color. And you know what? YouTube, I can fix anything if I watch a YouTube video. I could do brain surgery if I watched a YouTube video and doing it. So there's also some satisfaction in doing some of those repairs yourself. Yeah, it's a pain, of course it is, but I think that the benefits outweigh any of the negatives by far.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, let's wrap this up, and we'll have more of these conversations in the future. I want to invite everybody who's watching to get in touch with us, and even if you're not ready to make the move right now, let's have those conversations. Let's rally your circle and see who's really um, able and willing to make these moves with you, and you know, gather our forces. There's so many things in our world right now that are trying to separate us into little boxes, and the more that we can do to come together as a community, the stronger we will all be. And Christine and I are here. We're part of your community. We're weird and we're proud of it. Uh, and I'm so thrilled um, to get to know like some of these strange, beautiful people that make Portland famous for that. And
Right.
so let's keep these people in Portland. Let's help them find their houses, find their people, their tribe, and you know, micro intentional communities, I think a big are a way out of this renting rat race that I'd like you to explore, and please reach out to us and let us help you.
Yeah, and we'll have all the contact information at the end of this video. And you know, it all starts with a conversation.
Yeah,
You know, there's no pressure, there's no,
here, let's.
you know, it's a conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's dog tax for
And
y'all.
there's no dog, there's no pet rent
No
when
pet
you buy
rent.
a home. Oh my gosh.
It's so hard to find a place to rent with this huge dog. I mean, he's he's like 90 pounds.
Oh my gosh.
He's a big boy. And when I was looking for a place to rent when we first were moving around here in Portland, I had a bunch of landlords going like, we'll allow a dog under 30 pounds. And I'm like,
Yeah.
um, my dog's huge. No.
Oh, and they charge like $50 a pet per month,
Uh-huh.
which when you're renting and you add tack on, if you have one, that's 50. If you have two, that's 100. You know, I mean, these little tiny details keep adding up.
Yeah.
And you know, just another benefit. You could have a big old sweet boy like that.
Mhm.
Well, it was really great to talk to you about this today, Autumn, and I really do hope that people do start those conversations, and then they can connect with us so that we can help them continue those conversations and really help them get to where they want to be and need to be.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you, Christine.
All right, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Okay, and then